Hi everybody, this is Jim with Song Tripping. I'm here to do a listening log for Saturday, March 16th, 2024. This is what I've been listening to. And also, we'll combine this with some new finds. I went on a record buying jaunt. So, backstory here is I've been meaning to do a shootout of different versions of the Strawbs Deadlines album, which came out in 1978 on the Arista label. And it's an album that did not chart. It did not sell well at all. It was often appearing in the cutout bins. And I was certain I had a vinyl copy down here and I could not find it. I looked through every record here to see if I had misfiled it, and it's just nowhere to be found. I have no idea what happened to this Strawbs album because I can't imagine I would have given it away or gotten traded in or gotten rid of it. Maybe it accidentally ended up in a discard pile or something. I have no memory of ever getting rid of this album, and I was certain I had it. And I've always thought it was an underrated Strawbs album, despite the fact that it didn't sell. So I have an early, like a 90s CD version of the album, but I don't have the newer CD version, or I didn't have it. But I didn't have the vinyl. Like, that was just a shock to me. So anyway, this sent me off on a wild goose chase to see if I could track it down, because I do sometimes see it in the discount bins at the used record shop. So I went to a local record shop here that I have not been to in actually 2 or 3 years. I've been kind of boycotting them because I got a little tired of the snark. And there's a story behind that I'll share someday. But I thought, all right, let me try to bury the hatchet. I'll go. I'm sort of desperate. And beggars can't be choosers. So let me see if he has anything. I went into the shop. Everything went fine. I asked if I looked to see if he had the album. I didn't see it, and then I asked for help. He did some searching for me. It didn't turn up. He didn't even recognize the cover. So I guess the album does not show up that often in his shop. But anyway, I was kind of looking around there in the store. I thought, I'm here anyway. It's been a couple of years since I've shopped at this store, so let me see what I can find. So I did find a couple things, one of which was the Strawbs album from the Witchwood. This is their second or third studio album. And nice gatefold cover. This is near mint condition, and terrific early Strawbs album. I have it on CD, but I don't think I ever had this on vinyl. So I scarfed up the near mint copy. It sounds great. So I was really, really happy to find that. It's a nice consolation prize. The other cool thing I found was an SACD of Mahler's Symphony 6, with his early work of his called a piano quartet, which I think is an unfinished piece. And this is Christoph Eschenbach and the Philadelphia Orchestra. This is a hybrid CD on the Undine label. I think that might be a Finnish label. During Eschenbach's tenure, he was, they had a contract with that label, and they issued several SACDs, maybe 3, 4, 5 CDs, SACDs. And this one, this was at a nice price. I think it was like $7.99 used, and I'm like, okay, well, this is great. And of course, I go up to the counter to check out, and the guy checking me out has to make a comment. Record store guys are going to be record store guys. But he validated my purchase. He said, oh, these sound great. And, Eschenbach CDs, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, I didn't need your validation, but thank you. And took it home, listened to it. I listened to it about 3 times already, and it does sound terrific. I know Eschenbach had a bit of a turbulent tenure with the Philadelphia Orchestra. I think he only lasted about 5 years. But you know, here's a photo of him looking very sort of, I don't know what you say about that. But anyway, but there were news accounts that things were not going well. I've read varied reports of his time with the orchestra. I think personally he got along with the orchestra fine, but a lot of the players were not thrilled that they weren't consulted. They were just, the management said, "Oh, here's your new conductor." And they're like, "Well, we haven't even played with him all that much. Like, maybe we should, take a step back." But anyway, they sort of rammed that through. And then there were also reports that some of the players weren't happy with his interpretations of works that they were playing live and so forth. I don't know where the truth is with that. Like, he's a good conductor. He's a good musician. Really happy to get this. It was these two records were nice consolation prizes in my search for Strawbs Deadlines. So that led me to some other stores very locally to me, and I struck out at the other 2 or 3 places I went to. And then the next day I went down to Jupiter Records in Delaware, which is a store where I have quite a bit of store credit. I thought, okay, there's a good chance that I'll come across Deadlines in their bins. The guy at that store knows the Strawbs, likes the Strawbs. I've had conversations with him about how great the Strawbs are, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Of course, I didn't find Deadlines. I looked all through the store. But I did find a couple items that I got on store credit, and these were Dylan on vinyl. And this is an album I talked about in another video not that long ago, Saved. And this is the original cover. The CD has a different cover. So I thought this was good. I had thought about getting this once before at that store when it was in the new arrivals bin, and then it traveled to the Dylan section. I thought, I'm going to get it, use up my store credit. And it's a nice pressing. It sounds good. And then this was a nice find too. Another side of Bob Dylan. Previous owner was Linda. So the cover the sleeve isn't in the best shape, but this is a 2i mono, and it sounds decent. Like it's a good copy. So this completes my run of Dylan 60s albums. There's the first album. I think this is the stereo. The mono's better on this. I don't have that, but Freewheeling. This I think is mono. This is the mono version. Nice. Times they are changing. This was a new vinyl. I think it's a Sundays version. Another side. And one day soon I'm going to do a shootout of another side because I've got multiple versions on CD, SACD, mono CD. Now I have the mono vinyl, so we'll dig into that soon. Bringing it all back home. That's a stereo. Oh, this is also Bringing It All Back Home. This was a new vinyl, and this was a mono. And then Highway 61 mono. And here's Blonde on Blonde. I'm not sure if this has the, this is like the sort of the common gatefold. There's a rarer form of the gatefold on that. And then, again, this happens to me with the records, so I lost Strawbs Deadlines. I also lost the records for Blonde on Blonde. Like, this is an earlier version of Blonde on Blonde. And no records inside. Like, where did the records go? I have no clue. But I kept the cover in case the records ever turn up. And then 2 copies of John Wesley Harding. I don't know why I have 2 copies. I guess I'll have to compare them. And then Natural Skyline. So, if I'm not mistaken, that completes my run of studio albums by Dylan in the 60s. And then I have pretty much all the 70s albums. I'll double check. But anyway, so that was the beginning of my next day of looking for a record for the Deadlines album. And I couldn't find it. So then the same day I went up to a store called Shady Dog Records in Berwyn, Pennsylvania, which is a nice little store. I like the owner of that store a lot, but I haven't been in there in years because I haven't been buying much vinyl at all. Well, I did a quick run through of that store. I didn't find a Strawbs album. I didn't get anything at that store. So basically I gave up. I came home. It was a rainy day. I think this was last Saturday. And I just bought the vinyl mail order on eBay. And I also got the clamshell box set of Deadlines, which is on the Esoteric label, cherry red / Esoteric. And that includes the remastered version of Deadlines, plus the some bonus tracks and a disc of a live set, and then a DVD, I think, of the same live set. And so I got that also on eBay, I think it was. And both of those came in this week. The clamshell box set is upstairs. I don't have it at hand, but here is the Holy Grail, Strawbs Deadlines. I just always thought this cover was amazing. This was designed by Hypnosis. It's just the back kind of continues. I do like the inner sleeve too. So I'll have more, and has the lyrics and everything. The record's upstairs. I've been doing my shootout listens. And I'm going to make a video with a friend on this, hopefully pretty soon. But I'm just so happy to get this back. I have no idea what happened to my original copy of it. But to rewind a little bit, back to the Jupiter record store, in addition to getting those 2 vinyl Dylan albums, I've got some free albums. So at this store, it's in an old house, and on the front porch, they just have tons of like free albums. Most of them are really beat up. You know, they're 1 foot in the grave albums, but you can find stuff in there if you want to look a little bit. So I've actually found a couple classical albums. So I've been doing all this Eugene Ormandy listening on Tidal. So I found this Columbia Masterworks of Franck Symphonic Variations, Dundee Symphony on a French Mountain Air. Robert Casadesas is the pianist, and Philadelphia Orchestra with Eugene Ormandy. And this is a 6i mono, gray label, Columbia. It's a little bit worn. Like I think if I gave this a thorough clean, instead of just a spot clean, it might be worth keeping, although I'm very reluctant to keep classical vinyl. I've gotten rid of like 95% of my classical vinyl. So this is album. I compared the vinyl to the Tidal streams, and the Tidal stream just sounds a lot better, I have to say. But this one was an interesting find. Bruno Walter conducts Schubert, Symphony in C Major, The Great. And this is on my Bruno Walter box set. And this album, which is also a Gray Label 6i Columbia Masterworks. This is stereo with the Columbia Symphony Orchestra, so it's one of the later Bruno Walter albums. This vinyl sounds wonderful. Like this one's a keeper, at least for the time being. Like I was just really, really very warm, very balanced. Just like Bruno Walter in his autumnal phase of his career, and just was really, really a lovely listen. There's nothing wrong with the box set version. I haven't actually directly compared them yet, but this was so good, I just immediately thought, yeah, let's keep this one. Okay, so these are just continuing with the freebies, just a couple more. This was I really was happy. This is just kind of me geeking out, but A Very Merry Christmas, Volume 8. And this was on the Capitol label. So this completes my Very Merry Christmas collection, the Grant's Christmas album collection. And most of them are on Columbia, and then they switched to RCA, and then later they switched to Capitol. And I only had before the outer sleeve to this. Again, I think I found this at the same place in the free bins, but the album inside was the wrong Grant's Christmas album. It was Volume 6, not Volume 8. Well, here we have Volume 8. Volume 8 is in the house, as they say. The collector in me is really happy, let's put it that way. And then I couldn't pass this up. I already have it, but Barry Manilow, Even Now. This thing is really in near mint condition. And I have Even Now. I'm sure it was my sister's copy, because she was a Barry Manilow fan, and she had a few of his albums back in the day. And I used to listen to this a lot, and I always loved this album. But this is like, look at that cover. I mean, there's some very faint ringwear on it, but this thing has been well cared for. And there it was, just sitting out in the elements on the front porch of this store. So I feel like I rescued this, and this could be an upgrade in the quality, although I don't remember the quality of the old Even Now being too bad. But anyway, maybe I'll gift it to somebody. Okay, so wow, a lot there. What else have I been listening to? Well, I listened to the Dylan albums. I've told you about some of the other stuff I listened to. Let's turn to Tidal streams. I am steadily making my way through the Eugene Ormandy playlist, and let me share some of the albums I've been checking out there. So we have Don Quixote by Strauss, Prokofiev Classical Symphony, and some other stuff. Richard Strauss Suite from Der Rosenkavalier. Ormandy does a good job with Strauss. Saint-Saëns Symphony No. 3, in the Organ Symphony. The Strings of the Philadelphia Orchestra, Tchaikovsky Serenade in C Major, Borodin Nocturne for String Orchestra, Samuel Barber Adagio for Strings, Vaughan Williams Fantasia on green sleeves. If you want to hear the Philadelphia sound, the sound of the Philadelphia strings that they're so famous for, this would be a really good starting point. Just dial this album up and bask in the glory of the Philadelphia strings. And then Glier, a composer I don't know much about at all. I was doing some research this morning. He was a Russian Soviet composer, 20th century, Symphony No. 3. This was a really nice one too. It's funny, Ormandy, I think as he got older as a conductor, he had maybe a bit of a reputation about being like conservative in his choices of what to stage and what to record. But this is not the case with these old mono releases from the 40s and 50s. Like he was recording all kinds of new stuff, lots of 20th century composers, contemporaries, and lots of variety. It wasn't just the old German classical music. So I think by next week I will have completed this playlist I've been listening to, which has over 800 tracks. Those are my morning listens, and I'll have a little more to say about that. I don't think it's the complete mono box set. I think there's a ton more out there, but maybe it's not all on the streaming services. What have you been listening to this week? Do you have any reactions to some of these albums I've been sharing with you? Leave a note in the comment, and I hope you like and subscribe. Thanks for sharing some time with me.